Hey artists, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be walking you through the process of creating something that was actually really fun for me, but it did bring up a lot of emotions, and frankly it kind of brought up my inner critic a lot, which is what I want to talk about today. So for this particular piece here, I always had a really big soft spot for honeybees. And I really felt like painting one, but I wanted to do something that was a little more out of my comfort zone and frankly just had some more fun. And I knew that I wanted to embrace a bit more of a sort of chaotic element to it. So I decided to start with a little bit more of a fleshed out sketch, which normally is not something I do. Normally I do have a very basic sketch down and then I just jump right into the painting. But I wanted to use some charcoal and some black pastel that I had to create a really nice textural sort of background to use as a base for my painting. And I had a lot of fun doing it. There was so much texture involved, lots of like loose gestural sort of strokes with those pencils, a lot of fun. And then my next step, I wanted to give myself a sort of base to work with. So I was going to give it a dilute wash of acrylic paint, and I knew that I should definitely spray a clear fixative over my surface to make sure that I don't, turn all of that beautiful textural line work into a just big gray smudge. And I didn't put nearly enough on, and I almost ruined my painting before it had a chance to even start. So that was kind of the first step where I noticed a lot of my inner critic kind of coming out saying, you know better than this, like you can't continue, this is going to turn out terribly, just start over, it's not going to turn out into anything. But I ignored that voice and I kept going. And I am so glad that I did. So adding that dilute acrylic wash kind of locked everything in place. And then I was like, you know what? I've got this the way it is. Let's jump in and actually start painting. And I'm so glad that I did, that I pushed past that harsh critic voice that immediately popped up in my head, because not only was this painting so much fun for me to do, I love the way it looks, it pushed me out of my comfort zone, and it allowed me to try a new technique that I, probably wouldn't have otherwise. And I love this technique so much that I'm probably going to use it in more of my artwork going forwards. But if I had listened to that voice and stopped before I, really began, I wouldn't be sitting here with the same sort of, fuzzy, warm glow looking back at this painting. So it made me think about, the fact that maybe I am judging my artwork too harshly. And I thought, maybe other people can benefit from this too, about releasing that harsh critic that we all have living inside us. So let's talk about this first for a sec. Now, it might kind of feel that having that harsh critic inside of us can actually be a bit of a good thing. But ultimately, having that, inner critic, it is a double-edged sword. We might think that if we don't judge our artwork harshly, we're, constantly being really hard on ourselves, saying, no, you can do way better than that. This is terrible. Keep trying. You might think that if you aren't doing that, you are never going to improve. But on the other hand, if you let that harsh criticism, even though it's just inner criticism, if you let it get to you, you might develop a fear of ever really showing your artwork. And I've been in this place before. I'm really thankful that I did the mental work to be able to push past it, but I've been there and it sucks. It really does, because you become your own worst enemy. And here's the thing, that criticism can have a place. It can definitely help us improve, but only when it's constructive. If you are just straight up telling yourself, no, this isn't good, that's not very beneficial to anyone. But if instead you take a more critical sort of look at it and you say, okay, why don't I think this is very good? And you can break it down, figure out exactly where you kind of went wrong, or maybe just something doesn't feel very good to you. You can then go back and fix that problem for the rest of your paintings going forwards. Maybe you realize that you hate all the artwork you create when you're in a certain mood, or you don't actually like creating artwork of a certain subject, or maybe you realize you don't even like using a certain medium. So if you pick apart that sort of criticism a little more, instead of looking at it at, face value saying this is bad, look beneath the surface. There's going to be so many lessons there. And these lessons are obviously going to help you to improve, but it's also going to help you to develop a stronger relationship with your artwork and ultimately help you to create a body of art that you actually truly love. And that personally feels like the most magical thing about artwork. So if you find yourself in this sort of phase where you are judging your artwork too harshly, and you might just be feeling fearful of showing your artwork because you are letting that really harsh negative voice get a hold of you, I want you to know that this is totally natural. And like I kind of mentioned before, I personally found that becoming aware of that problem is kind of the first step towards solving it. So do I think you should stop judging your artwork altogether? No. I think you should always be searching for ways to improve and change, but mostly so you can become more aligned with what you actually want from your artwork. It's about finding balance between knowing how you can improve next time and also not hating the artwork. You want to become more and more in love with the process with every new piece of art that you create. And that is a tricky journey, but it's one that just feels so much better when you can actually look back on your artwork and think, man, I really love what I created. And a lot of that is doing that mental work. So know that the way you're feeling is totally natural, and you definitely can overcome it and become a person, an artist that judges your artwork less harshly and in a way that is going to help you improve in really dramatic ways, but it's also going to strengthen that relationship you have with the process that is artwork. And a funny thing too is that sometimes the reason why you dislike certain pieces of your artwork, it isn't even related to the thing that you actually created. Sometimes that art that you created is instilled with emotions that you were dealing with at the time and can actually have a lingering subconscious effect. I personally have noticed this with a lot of my artwork, looking back on bodies of work that I've created, that I knew I was in a more negative mindset at that time, whether it be because of things I was going through in my life, or maybe I just wasn't doing the mental work necessary. And I look back on a lot of that artwork and I might be proud of the way it looks, but my gut response to it is not positive. It's definitely negative because of that emotion that I have kind of instilled in it. So it's just another thing to consider when you might be judging your artwork too harshly. So if you've been listening to this video and you're going, yep, that's me, and you're realizing that A, it doesn't have to be that way, and B, you want to have a more positive relationship with your artwork and improve at the same time, well, I wanted to kind of share a couple of things that I do to stop myself from judging my artwork too harshly and in turn kind of developing that negative relationship with it. I think that you should strive to have a positive relationship with your art because otherwise, why are we even doing it? So the first thing that I always do is to listen to what your head is saying. I want you to listen to those thoughts that are popping up, and then I want you to thank it for its feedback and then move past it. So there is actually valuable information here when you're willing to dig through it. Maybe you just created a new piece of artwork and you're like, ugh, I hate this. I don't like the way this looks. This part looks terrible. Rather than just saying, nope, not listening, actually take a sec to listen to what your head is saying. And I want you to try and look beneath the surface and figure out why. You don't have to fixate on this, But peeling back one of those layers might actually help you to recognize what the true problem is. And then you are going to be able to move past it, but you're also learning from that experience. So the next thing that I usually do is to put an emphasis on learning and improving. So this can be a learning to deal with these sort of negative, self-criticisms that pop up, but it's also going to be important for helping you to learn and improve your artwork. So if you feel behind on your skill and that's making you dislike everything you create, well, a thing you can learn here is that maybe it's time to enter a phase of learning and growth instead. So entering with that right mindset can be super, super powerful. Sometimes you got to create a lot of crappy art before you create great art. So if you find yourself constantly just really not liking what you're creating, it might be a sign that it is time for you to enter that phase of learning and growth. And you can put that emphasis towards it. You can take lessons. You can focus on certain skills that you want to be able to gain and acquire as an artist. And especially when you enter with that right mindset, the one where you want to learn and improve, it's going to make all the difference. And the final thing I wanted to share with you, kind of pull you away from that harsh criticism that might be popping up inside your head, is to remind you that this is not the end of the world and you will move past this. This is a natural part of not only being an artist, but being human. Everyone goes through this at some point. Maybe not necessarily for their artwork. Maybe it's for other things in their life. But know that this is not the end of the world and you can and will move past this. And if you have the right mindset about things, you are just going to be stronger on the other side. So that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If there are certain things that you want to see me paint or talk about certain artist-related things, leave me a comment and let me know. I always want to know what people want to hear about. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. If you're craving more help with painting a realistic wildlife easily, then you will love the Wildlife Painting Academy. Each month, new masterclasses are added, complete with my voice walking you through every moment, paint mixing recipes, reference photos, and so much more. You can check it out in the link in the description of this video.